JJ, what's up, man? How are you? Good to see you.
Good, Wolf. How you doing?
I am doing lovely. It's like springtime in Utah. This is when the best part of me comes out. It's like mid 60s, just going on walks, forgetting I have kids and all that good stuff. How are things on your side of the world?
Yeah, we're in autumn, so it's just we're turning the other way. So the days are getting shorter, but the surf is getting better. So it's kind of like you have a bit more darkness, but the waves get a bit more punch. So it's kind of a pretty good time of year because the water's still warm from summer, but the waves have the energy of winter.
The waves have the energy of winter. Would you say this is like your favorite time of the year to rip some waves?
Yeah, pretty much, pretty much. It's like, and then even when you think about it, like summer, the size and the power of the swell just drops off. So you for for a few months, you're just surfing like a little bit weaker waves. And then autumn is typically when those better swells start coming through and the power and the size comes back. And it's like you feel reunited with a long lost friend. You're like, oh, I remember. It's kind of, yeah, kind of feels the stoke somewhat.
Man, that is amazing. I need to just like indirectly get a job with Bellroy, move out to Australia, and live the fantastic life that you guys live out there.
Yeah, it's like we're down. So we'll just jump in. Like, so Bellroy is Bell's Beach Fitzroy. So I think I've explained it directly to you, and we're trying to like share
Yes.
that a bit more widely now. But it's like Bell's Beach surfing mecca. It's like the longest running surfing competition in the world. It's the home of Rip Curl and Quicksilver. These major brands were actually born down here of like the passion for the surf. Fitzroy is kind of like a Melbourne suburb that's like in a city, and it has a kind of like bit of an edge to it. It's not like a clean and precise place. It's actually got a bit of grunge feels to it. And so we were kind of uh, like the law is that the brand started because you can't get everyone you want to be happy in either location. So it's kind of
Yep.
like at the start, the design and sales team were based down in near Bells Beach, and then in the city is where we had more the corporate side and the product development side of the business, and then that's basically stayed true. But now the design office is down in Bells Beach. We do have a couple other people there, but it's pretty much a design office. And then a lot of the other side of the business is actually based up in the city, and so we kind of get this best of both worlds part where we sit like the design team sit separate from like a trend area. Like it's a surfy town. It's kind of small. It's getting bigger, but
Yep.
but um we're not looking at fashion kind of like walking past us and really soaking up the Melbourne vibe. We're kind
Yeah.
of like it's its own thing here, so it's much easier for us to not get swept away with different colors and different themes that are going through, but to actually just be independent, really, of those kind of emerging trends, and we see that as a strength, really.
That's awesome. I'm like fascinated by, I work in tech and although like a different world, but nevertheless, like I'm in sales, but then just like the personas, right, that are like salespeople versus like the product slash engineer people. It's cool that you guys are kind of like catering to both people and like allowing them to flourish in the environments that they are going to be happiest in, which is
Yeah,
really cool.
totally. And it's baked in deep to the brand, so it's kind of like something that, yeah, it's something that we'll start sharing a bit more. I think we'll start doing some ways of just like communicating. I think more that brand ethos, and then how that's allowing us to kind of like show up in the world.
Totally. And since we're like on the topic, like obviously you were talking about surfing right now, but that's something I'm not a surfer. I like grew up doing some wakeboarding and stuff, but like tell me a little bit about like the surf life embedded into just your daily workflow and energizing and all that good stuff.
So it was deeper in when I first joined. There's like a lot more core surfers in the office, and that was very much, I've been here 11 years now. Started when Bellroy was wallets, and I remember the job interview. I was over in the UK at the time, and it was like, hey, yeah, we go on surf together as a team. And I'm like, oh, yeah, yeah. Like, thinking like, oh, this will be like once every 3 months kind of thing, that
Yeah,
try
yeah,
not get sold on the pipe dream too much.
yeah.
Um, Packed up my life, moved over here. Like I didn't surf at that point. And then came in and it was like 3-4 times a week, like at lunch, everyone like runs down and goes for a surf and was surfing before work, surfing at lunch. And it was just kind of like, I was absolutely stunned and really, really fell in love with like the act of surfing and the actual, experience of it and just really knuckled down hard. That vibe has changed for the office as the brand's grown, but also as the area's grown. So
Okay,
we don't have, it used to be much more monocultural, like it was all surf culture. And then as the town has actually grown, it's become much more diverse. There's a lot more things you can basically be doing. So as such, the office has changed as well.
okay,
What we do though is we continuous like each day at 11 and about 4, we do a surf check, and that is like everyone's there. They just drop what you're doing, surf check time. We all get up as a group and, we all walk out to the lookout and actually just look at the waves, look at the ocean. It's like 200 meters from the office. It's a nice little track that's through some trees, and you end up
hell
with
yeah,
this like vista that everyone just gets to not be talking about work for that 10 to 15 minutes it takes. You get to just connect as a group. You get to change your focal distance. If you've had a really heavy computer morning and you've been staring this far, then all of a sudden you're looking at the horizon. And if you've been working in the lab or like sewing things or just staring at a bag trying to get it to tell you what you should do with it, you kind
yeah,
of then get like just a bit of a perspective change. And like that's part of the like the Bell's office culture that is just inherently built into it, to the point where it's like if someone is booking a meeting at 11, you're like, no, that's not cool,
yeah,
man. Like,
yeah.
I've got a date at 11, and it's with all of my colleagues, and we're going to go for a stroll together. So like, be respectful. Thank you. Yeah.
That Yeah, don't remind me. I have like recurring Friday meetings at like 3:30 in the afternoon. That's super cool. I feel like as a consumer, and even someone that's like a little bit more in the know than a lot of people, I feel like a lot of people don't really know that about Bellroy. I think it's just a really cool part of the DNA, and yeah, like seeing the products and how much personality and life they have. Yeah, it checks out. But by the way, JJ, I guess like I know we just to take a quick step back. I know you've made your rounds through the interwebs of the BagTuber universe, but for anyone that doesn't know who you are, if you want to just like do a quick intro.
Yeah. So I'm an Australian industrial designer. Ended up finishing industrial design, realizing that I didn't actually like all the CAD and the plastics part of it. Somehow organically ended up doing footwear, and then what was I doing that for like a year and a half, 2 years, and then got an amazing opportunity to go and work with Crumpler based in Vietnam.
Okay.
Hightailed it over there, and my 6 month like quick work trip ended up being 3 years, and that was like based in Vietnam and just basically living and working bags. Had a sample team, had direct access to the factory, made some great friendships with our Vietnamese team over there, and really understood the what it is to build a bag from a different perspective.
Yeah.
Took that knowledge to London and was over there for 7 years, and then was just basically bag freelancing for a number of different brands. So that was like Nomo back in their heyday. They've kind of lost their way a little bit now. Rafa would be another one. Did some Kickstarters and all kinds of random thing, and then ended
Like
up,
the high end biking brand, Rafa?
yeah,
Or am I? Yeah. Very cool.
and then ended up leaving London to come and work for Bellroy. And so that was, back when Bellroy was just wallets. Came in and we basically did our phone program, and then slowly built the brand out to, adding the bags in, and then now the luggage. And Yeah, at this stage, I'm head of product design, and there's a team of 9 industrial designers and designers that we've got on the team. And then, yeah, we all work together basically on making everything that is Bellroy. So, yeah, it's been pretty big journey, but basically now, yeah, the the role that I kind of have is like making sure that the products we are releasing are on point, achievable, interesting to us, interesting
Yeah.
to the to potential customers, and actually all have a reason for existing rather than just being a Me Too product or
Yep.
something that hasn't actually had that thought or that attention paid into it. I think that our brand wants to always make it that even when we're doing something that seems classic or simple,
Yeah.
we've put that thought in that it's like, oh, it's kind of it looks like what like a clean bag. Like I'm picking particularly on the classic roll top because I've got one sitting right in front of me.
Love
It's
it.
what I'm
I
carrying at the moment.
freaking love
And
that
it's
bag.
like it looks like a traditional bag, but then once you actually get closer, you realize that it's not heritage focused. We've actually like applied a lot of modern learnings and newer logic into a bag that has a classic format, and that's kind of what we want to do across everything that we touch.
That's funny that you bring that up. I want to like circle back to that guy because it's been sparking a lot of joy for me, and it surprised me for sure. Before we get into kind of like the meat of the conversation, for anyone that might be watching, a little like backstory and context. Also, kind of funny because I was like thinking about this recently, but yeah, I launched a channel like a year and a half ago. It hasn't been that long, and I remember when I first started, I was just like creepily filming myself awkwardly, just putting out content into the ether. And like very early on, I had maybe like 300 subscribers, like microscopic, but enough where I was like, wow, there's 300 humans that are watching this and somehow like engaging with it. I remember my wife was like, do you have a way for brands to reach out to you? And I was like, babe, like that's not going to happen anytime soon. But reluctantly, I like created an email. I never logged in. I forgot about it. A month went by and I don't know what like came over me, but I'm like, let me just check it out. I go and I had one email, it was unread, that was like from 2 weeks prior, and it was from Magenta, Bellroy, and I remember I was like, holy shit, couldn't believe it. But anyways, if you would have asked me at the time, I'm not just like saying this, like if I could choose two brands to partner with from the get go, who would they be? Like you guys would be a no brainer. So just like you guys have been a fantastic partner, just like appreciate you like trusting my crazy perspectives, betting on me early on and like just giving me that confidence early on has been like amazing for the channel. But anyways, like how we got connected, how we're here, like JJ, you like pinged me over email. I forget what exactly, it was like over one of the videos that I had done. We had a little conversation over email, and then you were cool enough to agree to like meet with me over Zoom. We had a couple conversations, really good conversations. And since then, there were like a few things that just kind of stuck with me, all around what I want the overarching theme of the conversation to be, which is just the balancing act that is design, right? Especially from your
Mhm.
perspective, someone that's been doing it for such a long time, the constant push and pull. So yeah, that's like one of the big things that I want to explore on today's call. Like right before we started this, we were chatting about, and by the way, this is the first official like nitpod. So I think it's like full circle, very befitting that you'd be
Right.
the first guest. I did launch a separate podcast with a few like Baghdadis. I know we were chatting about it a little bit. Alex from Vision Swell, sorry, Out in the Lights, Zach from Vision Swell, and John from Unpacked, and it all about the launch of the Travel Pack 4. And it's been like really, really polarizing for a lot of reasons, understandable, etc. But one of the things that has really stuck with me that I want to like chat about, because it must be incredibly frustrating for you as a designer, or maybe you've done it long enough that you know how to detach from it. Me as a just like a reviewer, I think where I get frustrated, right, is that I understand people like expecting certain things and being passionate about it. Everyone's entitled to their own opinions, but I think what people oftentimes overlook is the fact that for every design decision, there's a give and take, right? And secondly, like just because a bag is not designed for you doesn't like it's fine, right? It was probably designed for someone specific in mind. And yes, when you love a brand, you want them to create everything for you. But anyways, that's kind of like the overall premise that we'll get into now. But I guess before we get like a little deeper, just wanted to ask, because you mentioned the classic roll top, what is like the product that you've been most proud of from like the last 6 to 12 months that you've been like personally like really enjoying?
I think from like pride and enjoying are two different things. I think when I look at the transit carry on, I think that as a design function, as a team function, as being something that I focused a lot of my time onto, and that we had a relatively small number of designers actually working on. I was working very closely with Jake, who's our CAD sculptor. Well, he's changed roles now, but he was our CAD sculptor at that point in time. Um, yeah, which interestingly enough, he's got like an automotive background, and I think it shows up in the surfacing. That it's like there's someone who's like been sculpting cars and elements of cars that has that refinement in the surfacing that has really like shown up in that bag. But I think that from a pride point of view, that we were able to inject ourselves into what would be argued as like a totally saturated market. Like luggage, you can spend every price that you want. There's so many like variations of the same or similar thing. And from like our point of view, we wanted to make sure that we came in with sustainability as a core function within there, with a point of view that doesn't actually ostracize or make a customer feel like they've had to take a risk to use us. I think it's quite easy to go, how do we make some noise? And you're like, oh, we make it crazy. Like we go nuts. And it was very
Yeah.
much like almost like an exercise in restraint for us about making it that we would add complexity and features, but only in areas where there was like a benefit for the user, that it didn't mean that they paid a social penalty walking the bag around, such as like, the webbing on the grab handles and stuff. Like it adds character to it. It's a nice little thing, but you don't like, it's not like you had to like explain away that feature to people who were like, why did they do that? And you're like, oh, it just works. It's almost like borderline invisible. It just becomes a part of the whole thing. And then additionally, the packing area of like, I think that, as Bellroy continues to develop luggage, we will continue to never leave the interiors just as a blank canvas. We will always focus on packing as being an element and as replaceable parts as being an element. And so it's like that project ran through the design team and had us reaching into new areas as far as like, where do we add innovation and where do we actually just do things that make clear sense? And the end result has been, I think, very, very positively received by a wide variety of reviewers. We've had people reaching out who's, wheels. There was one person who reached out because a rabbit had chewed the wheel and had actually found the rubber delicious for whatever reason. And so, like the wheel is ruined, and it's like if you take that into another context of like, if that happened and she bought it from a different brand, it's like, cool, just put your whole bag into a box. It's not covered by warranty. You cover the shipping to send that back to us. We'll see if we can repair it. We can't.
Totally.
Bin the bag, send you a new one. And like all of that, um, all that effort and all of that product just gets binned because of like one component. But the result was, she sent it. We thought it was hilarious. We sent her the replacement part for free, just like, go like fix it. And with
Yeah.
her own tools, she's like, gets her IKEA style guide that we've done, unscrews, replaces the part, and like the bag is fixed. And it's like those moments, like kind of like actually coming into reality, has been like
Totally.
really, really great on that product. As for what's bringing the most joy, I think that it depends on what I'm doing. So we've got some demo bags that I'm carrying at the moment that are feeling really, really interesting, and I'm really excited for. And they're really looking at more guess you call it like outside and outdoors credentials for Bellroy, where we've taken our approach to carry, to organization, to what matters when you're actually wearing a larger capacity pack. So we've got this kind of duffel pack which we're calling a hauler coming through, that is like a combination of improved carry, large volumes, and then like how can Bellroy actually have an opinion to make a bag that kind of unifies our approach to carrying something with a format that is relatively common and very explored and very almost monocultural. Like if you think of the Black Diamond, Patagonia, North
Yep.
Face, they all offer this same style duffel pack thing. And we've just gone like, oh, okay, cool, that's great for them, but how can we actually like do a different version that makes sense and actually improves what it is to carry a style like that? And so I'm pretty excited for that one. Also hella nervous because it's like, as you were alluding to before, this is Bellroy playing in different areas than normal.
Yeah.
And so I think when it goes into the review cycle, when it goes into the customer feedback cycle, like we're going to be um, sharing like a new concept and a new way of carrying with a big, broad audience, and the things that we might be feeling are really, really strong might
Sure.
not matter for the rest of the world. You know, they might not. Turns out people might not give a shit, or they might use it and then realize, oh, this is amazing. Like it's kind of changed how those style of bags carried for me, and that's kind of the that's definitely the nerve wracking bit. Is like, does
Yep.
anyone else care? You know?
So it's interesting. You're essentially, the phenomenon that you experience with the transit carry-on, which like you guys absolutely killed it. Like you mentioned, such a competitive, saturated market. Like, how do you come in and be noticed and be appreciated without going too crazy? And the little value adds that you guys had that were so unique, like the replaceability of parts, those grab handles, man, are, I know like a lot of people are like, oh, that's kind of cool. For me, just such a great detail that just makes you think like, why hasn't this been done before? But yeah, it's interesting that you're about to kind of like do it again, but just in the world of, yeah, some like the Patagonia, like the Black Hole and the North Face, like what is like the Everest or
Base camp.
the base camp duffel that have been around for ages, but they've gone relatively unchanged.
Yeah, and we don't want to do a me too. You
Totally.
know, like it's like I think that even when we look at Osprey, I think that they put more into their packs, like into their duffel packs. But even with that, we're like we also don't want to be looking like an Osprey, but we've aesthetically also really deliberately chosen to make sure that our bags look like they're of the orthodoxy of that area. So it's also like, you know, you want to blend in and then have like it stand out when people look closer, but not necessarily be, you know, standing out as carrying something really odd or something really strange from the start point. You know, you just don't, you want to kind of look the part, I guess is the easy way of saying it.
Well, I have an inkling you guys are gonna do really well. I mean, I did recently in a video that I've been meaning to do for a long time. It's like a backpack buying guide, but less of like a hey, these are the bags specifically, but just more for someone that's like made that realization. I use my bag a lot. I've had a shitty bag for a very long time. Maybe it's time to make a like do that worthwhile investment. I go over like different categories, but when I talk about like aesthetically, I do like a few different categories, and I couldn't pick a category for Bellroy because I had to create it's its own thing category. It was like Bellroy, Tom Bin, and well, yeah, just like brands that's like you're doing so much your own thing, you can't really be put into another bucket. But I think a good segue, right? Like you guys, and one of the things I appreciate is like you have this awesome reputation of, even though you're a bigger brand, like you are constantly innovating, and you see that a lot with the materials, like your in-house materials that you're designing and developing, and not only creating materials that look and feel good, but you're doing it in a very sustainable way. I know that's always been like a big part of the focus of Bellroy. Um, and not to mention like aesthetically, to me, I'm honestly like, as a reviewer, I'm at a point where I don't think I can do like another like black technical minimal techie bag. I need to take a break from it. It's just so much,
Mhm.
and you guys, there's so much life that you put into your products. They have so much personality. The tactile experience of interacting with them. I'm really curious. Like you mentioned, like you have a team. It's you, 9 other guys or 8 other guys, but like, what are the guidelines that you have? Right, anytime you're going to develop a new product, where you have to kind of like stay within those guidelines to ensure that you're like maintaining like the brand's integrity.
What are the guidelines?
If you
Oh,
have, or just
so
kind of like, yeah, like how do you make sure it keeps that
well,
Bellroy DNA?
I think that the way that the way that we do our approval process is really interesting, and the way that we actually develop projects is really quite different. Like um, we try to be in a very very low ego environment, so we try to make sure that um, people aren't attached to their ideas, and anyone's ideas are not attached to people. So
Okay.
this gives you the freedom to know that the responsibility of success isn't actually attached to any one of us, and just as much as like the opportunity for success is not, attributed to an individual, because it's always a team effort.
Sure.
What this looks like in practice is that you share your ideas early and you share them widely. So we don't have designers going off into a hut in the woods. I often think of like, the kind of like Nordic design videos, they'll have this like amazing vista with this like little cabin, and inside is like one person who has been, alone tinkering for 3 years trying to refine this thing. It's like that's the opposite of how we want Bellroy to work. We want it to be that you get the initial inspiration and idea, and then that moment that you're actually starting to generate it is the time when you start sharing it. And that's the moment that you share it, is when the feedback starts coming in, and it's from a variety of different perspectives within the business. They can be from design, they can be from production, they can be from sales, they can be from a casual observer just being like, it feels okay, but it's not great. Like whatever
Yeah.
that is, but it's like that starting block of not actually being private means that we're not making a set list of requirements that means that something is a Bellroy or isn't a Bellroy. There's actually that collaborative environment and a multitude of people being able to input and help shape it, that actually ends up coming to that output of the products that we put out. I think that's why we've got that ability to look and empathize with so many different potential use cases for bags and carry, and be like, hey, yeah, we can build something that's going to solve for that person. We can build a unique proposition, something that's different than what the competition is doing, and not just feel like we've trapped ourselves into one handwriting that means that all of our bags have to be, out of X material, and they always have, that same set of features, and they've always got the same level of organization. We've actually found a way to break that mold of feeling like a brand represents one person strongly, to actually be like much more of an omnivore. And it's like we represent a lot of people in a lot of different areas of the world, whether they're traveling, working, commuting, hanging out on the weekend, going on a walk, like whatever activity it is. Like we're like, oh, okay, cool. Do we have an opinion on how you should be carrying in that moment? And if we do, we can feel the freedom to actually like generate something for them. So I think that's why the breadth of the brand is what it is because it's kind of like open and sharing by nature from the moment that we start, rather than going like, hey, here's the checklist of features that are a must have Bellroy. It's like we don't have that. I think we used to,
Yeah.
within wallets. It was very very much more linear kind of process. Like we knew what we wanted to achieve, and that was like take a product that people neglect and add magic to it. And it's
Hmm.
kind of like, I think we're more in that line, but not always. Such as the luggage, like, is a really salient example of like, we want everyone to be able to depend on this piece of luggage. We want to do no parts that can potentially add friction to a journey that can be really stressful. I think of yourself and your comment about like, you and your wife having a fight like 98% of the time when you travel or something like that. And
Yeah.
it's like, imagine
Yeah.
that was because of the bag, because like the wheel busted, like, like imagine that, like, oh man, the organization in this is shit. I've lost my passport in my own bag. Like, what the fuck do I do now? Like, that
Yeah. Yeah.
those actual moments happen for people. And it's like, imagine like we can make things just a bit smoother, and it's like, I think even on like the light sling, it's like that back internal zip pocket. We don't sell it as a travel piece, but there's a passport size pocket that's in the most protected spot inside your bag that just is conveniently there, that once you start traveling, you're like, oh, discovered and unlock. And in that bag that you've already got a relationship with, that you know how to use, that you use in your daily life, all of a sudden becomes like a bit of a travel win for you as well. And you didn't have to go out and get a new bag specifically for the trip.
Absolutely. I think it's
Sorry, that was
interesting
a
that
bit
you
of a
bring.
rant, but
No, no,
there we go.
I loved it. I mean, my brain's going in a million different directions, but I do think, it's interesting to me how I think maybe like on a very deep level, a fascination of mine with travel products specifically is that travel inherently can be stressful, even on a subconscious level. So it's like one of those areas where for me, identifying any place where I could eliminate friction just to like not only like make it less stressful, but like life is short, right? Like when you're traveling and you're creating new memories, like having a tool that's gonna make you glide through like a new place that much more easily is gonna like enhance those memories as well. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm
And
curious.
travel
Like,
travel is an interesting one because it's like, um, and I've said this I think previously, and like, so a bit repeated, but it's like, your grandma won't give. She's not going to tell me how to pack to go to work, but she'll tell me how to pack to go on an international flight. There's like a certain element of, everyone views this as like the most impactful carrying moment, that it's like, you get on that plane and you got to have all the things with you, and it got to like fit a weight criteria, and it got to fit a volume criteria, and if you buy things at destination, that's great, but can you actually even bring them back? So you don't want to do that activity. Like, there's a lot of like regimented rules that you kind of got to like fall within, and then like a penalty, that whether it's financial or whether it's just not having the thing on hand that you need when you get there, that like causes people to be overpackers and underpackers, and to have this real connection with everyone who's having to do that travel experience. And it's
yeah,
kind of like, is unique in that place. It just pulls the carryologist in all of this.
it's fascinating to me when I go to the airport. It's like my absolute favorite place in the world to like people watch. And one of the things I'm always
Mm.
paying attention to is just what are the products, not like from a superficial standpoint, but like how are you traveling, right? Whether it's like your suitcase, you have a sling, like it just where I'm getting at is that I feel like most people, like it's rare that I see someone that I'm like, okay, like you actually like put a lot of thought into traveling, into your setup,
Mm-hmm.
into your systems, but most people are not that way. They just show up and somehow make it from A to B, and they probably enjoy the trip even more than us in certain ways, but yeah, it's
Yeah, we've got our the biggest flex for traveling, and I do this intentionally, is to travel with a half full duffel, like a weekender. And it's like, to just be having something casually on your shoulder that has all this space. And it's like, there's nothing more powerful than, I think, that you're that relaxed that you haven't even maxed out the capacity. So like my usual travel setup now at the moment, like when I'm doing work trips, totally different
yeah,
when I'm traveling with kids, but when I'm doing work trips is like, I'll have a transit carry on. We've got a new version of this coming out that I'll be rolling around with soon. But um and then within that, on top, I'll always have the new classic getaway bag, and
I
that
was
has
looking at
like
that. Yeah.
it's got a laptop sleeve in the back, but then the rest of it you can just have like your underseat essentials, and then it's like that one's up over the top, the other one's under the seat in front of you, and it's like you could max that bag out and make it totally full, but that ends up being like a bit of an issue because if you've done that, you're actually not you're no longer living that lifestyle. You know, like a half full duffel on top of like a carry on is just yeah, that's the sweet spot.
I gotta try it, JJ. You got me
It
inspired.
takes
I'm just like
discipline. Takes discipline. You can do it though. Yeah.
yeah, I'm just like such a backpack fanatic, you know. But yeah, I also
Yeah.
love duffels. I just use like duffels more when I do like weekend trips, like in the car or like to the gym and stuff like that. But I've always been like, I need to just like switch it up and try the whole duffel mode. Um, all right, let's kind of like
Yeah, we had some
switch
questions
gears.
to answer, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Let me switch
Great.
gears, but okay, like I want to get into like people are funny human beings, right? I would say like my channel is Nitpacker, right? And so I would say there's two things that people say a lot about Bellroy that only one for me is one that would take an already incredible bag to the next level. But it's always interesting. It's not just like okay, it's because of X, Y, and Z, and that's it. There's nothing you can do. Like there's a lot of value that you're getting with that trade off, right? So let's start off with standability, right? Backpacks, your bags, it's not like that they don't stand on their own, but like compared to something like an air, they don't stand as effortlessly. But yeah, like walk me through the design brain of what goes on and kind of the trade-offs there.
Yeah, so it depends on the family about how much bags will stand. So we don't have it consistent across all of our bags. And so I think specifically with backpacks, like the classic family all stand. And the reason for that is that the classic, like family as a whole, like when we're actually mapping out what are the values of that family for us and what we're trying to have like customers experience when they use it, it's like it's almost like static should look good as much as activity looks good. Then when you have that bag by your side in the office and you're like, hey, I'm coming to the office, but I'm a casual person through and through. So I've got this bag that has a casual feel to it, but it just sits by my desk. It's there and it's available. I can pack into it really easily. Like there's all of this kind of inherent capability in that's very casual and it's very approachable and very easy. So it's just there by your side doing its thing for you. The bags that don't stand, in particular, would be the venture ready packs. I think this is the one that gets called out the most because we've tried to straddle two worlds with that bag where it's like we want active, but then we put in features that are like daily office carry. So we've
Mm-hmm.
got this kind of this mix. We don't consider ourselves an outdoors brand. We say outside, and it's like it's slightly different. Like we like some of the aesthetics that outdoors brand kind of have, but we're not really like roaming through the jungle. We're not
Yeah.
climbing up mountains. We're kind of like doing stuff that gets you to base camp and it gets you to the office, but it's
Yeah.
not for actually scaling the mountain. And so from a feature set, what we've put in is like this mix of like office and urban, but then we packaged it in something that is more outside and active. So
Yeah.
by nature, the base of the bag, we shape upward. The laptop we suspend higher. We kind of do a few kind of like tricks in there. The trade-off is that you don't have a bag that will just sit down by your side like a loyal dog. It's like it's got its own thing going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then when you put it down, it's going to lean and it's going to do other things, but geez, it's going to be looking better on your back than having like your curved spine and lumbar and then a flat line coming straight out of it. Like we want to make sure that that's up and actually like referencing the form of the body as well and not just being like a block that you've attached to your back. classic customer, they don't have that forward leaning kind of like active presence. It's much more, vertical and casual, potentially one shouldered. Maybe the straps are absolutely maxed out, so the bag's sitting super
Yep.
low. So we didn't focus on the lumbar curve on that bag as much, because it's like people aren't going to wear it in that way. They're actually just going to like put it on their back and not be worried about the fit being totally nailed. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like a long way of saying, like, family dependent, depends on whether or not the bags individually stand. Um, what we are looking at doing though is on our work styles is owning work more. So the work styles in the future that will be coming out will be self-standing and doing all of those elements from design from the base up. Like there will be no, like it'll be hard to knock these bags over because they'll be like doing
Yeah.
it. But we've also got to try and make it in a way that for us doesn't mean that we end up making these rigid blocks that are also then immovable, because it's like, I think the bags you would have had experience with where even though the bag is empty, it looks full, like it's taking
Yeah.
up 100% maximum volume all the time.
Totally.
That is also something that we try and make sure that we don't do, that it always is kind of pulling in or able to reflect the capacity of what you've got inside there, rather than just being a big brick that you schlep on your back.
Yeah. And that's kind of like, I think people are so quick, right, to just be like, oh, blah blah blah, I wish this, but it's like, like the Venture Ready, as well as like the Venture Travel Pack, two of the like best looking bags. I think the best looking bags that you guys have, period, and they look awesome when you're rocking it. So it is definitely like a delicate balance, and it's funny how bags can kind of like match your energy. You're like, so much about what you guys do is like bags that are effortlessly cool. Like they're just, it's just very casual. It's casual, but it can be like, uh, you can upplay it, downplay it. It really fits into any setting. And then you look at, like, nothing against like Air, like right now, like Air and Simple. I'm doing like a comparison of the two, but they're both, they're bags that make me feel like personality wise, like a little bit more like sterile, more stiff. They have like that blockiness to it. I
Hmm.
don't feel like a very casual dude like I do when I'm rocking my Bellroy, like walking around the airport, uh, etc.
Yeah, and
So
I think for us, Classic Family has been like, that's the most recent full family release, and there was a lot of time spent going like, how do we actually want to show up with like supporting someone who wants to just have that really kind of like easy bag that's just, it complements clothing well. It's not in colors that are trying to fight with stuff that you would be wearing. It's like how do you just like make it just so easy to approach and just start using, and to not actually feel the challenge of, say, like, yeah, like a ready pack where it's like, hey, I'm like in my like kind of like flannelish shirt today, and I've got active pack on. Whereas it's
totally,
like a flannel shirt and you've like got a classic one. It's like easy, like no
totally.
stress. It just blends in. Yeah.
The classic roll top has been definitely my favorite. Is currently like, if you told me you could only have one Bellroy backpack, it would be the classic roll top, and I was did not expect that
I,
to
don't-
be the case, to be
I didn't
honest.
expect it when I started. We put a bit of time into that one. We put a a bit of time into everything, but we put a
Yeah.
bit of time into that one, and particularly when we were at our supplier and working with the sample room. I was over there with Aaron, who's like the senior soft goods designer, and he and I were like just trying to find what that essence is, and we ended up doing 3 backpacks that we launched at one time in the classic family, which I think from a typical business strategy point of view isn't the right thing to do. But from our kind of like product led point of view, we're like, this is 3 different things for 3 different people.
Totally.
And it's like, it's been really interesting to look at the sales, because they're actually relatively even to one another. It's not like one of the bags actually just took off and the other two were dead weight. It's like there's really like three different approaches to carry within that family. And for me, the roll top, um, similar to like the Tokyo tote pack, it lets you blend in to different environments and just project a ease and a chillness that a lot of
Totally.
other backpacks can't do. That you look a little bit too prepper or too Dora the Explorer, getting ready to go on your adventures because you're fully like kitted up and ready to roll. Like you want something that lets you carry a backpack or something over both shoulders because of the supreme ease of comfort, but not actually look like you're overly keen. You're just a bit more relaxed.
Totally. I think that's one of the hardest things to convey and quantify as I'm reviewing bags because people get really caught up into like having to check off all these boxes feature wise. And to me, when I think of some of my favorite backpacks, do they check off as many boxes as others? Absolutely not. But the look and the feel and the way they make me feel when I use them, it kind of like throws a lot of non-negotiable feature things out of the window. And I think hopefully something that people can get more and more in tune with and stop getting so caught up into the it has to have this and this whole like you know
Yeah.
insatiable pursuit for the perfect bag.
Yeah, I think that like the Carryology reviews used to have the X Factor part as part of the score. Um, I view it as in that camp that there's something that isn't on the feature list that the product can do, and that can be like you're saying, the way you feel when you carry it, or that ability to know that it's like you can just blend in into different worlds, and it just complements the clothes you're typically wearing really really well, or it just makes you feel sharper. Like maybe you're accidentally organized, like you just realize the pockets are in the right spot, and you're just like
Yep.
you just fill the bag, and you're like, oh, I kind of have a home for everything, but I didn't think about it. And it's like those are the things that the pocketing might look simplistic if you compare it to the number of small little slips that you've got throughout the bag. But if they're in the right place, then it's great. You're just like, oh, everything naturally goes into these spots. And each
Yes.
time I reach for something, it's like it's there. Like that's kind of like the unsung moments that are really hard to kind of capture I think when you're reviewing, but
Yep.
it's things that we focus on when we're designing. Like even um, like you keep reaching for an area to feel the resistance so you can move the zip, and we haven't put something there. We just get a piece of chalk and draw it on there so we don't forget that that's the spot that you're instinctively going to grab, and you don't know why. Like you couldn't plan it at the start, but that's the location that little loop needs to be.
Yeah, that makes me happy. Also, the pockets, right? People get so caught up in the quantity of pockets and yeah, it just throughout the journey of reviewing bags, and something that you guys do really well is like creating these like little moments or like these intuitive pockets that it's less about like having a shitload of pockets, like for example like the Venture Ready and the Venture Travel Pack, that it's so simple but like
The
I
brain
can't think of
pocket. Oh my god.
yeah, the brain pocket. It's just like it makes so much
Yeah.
sense, and at first you're like, oof, I don't know if this is going to be enough organization for me, and then you realize no, this is
It's
where
so
like
so simple. It's like left and right. It's like the
yep,
hemispheres of your brain. So it's like you've got one where you tend to drop one class of items, and the other one you drop another class of items, and you don't think about it. Like
yep,
that's the beauty of it, and it's on the front of the Wonder Totes and the Tokyo work bags as well, where it's like the big double-breasted pocket, and it's like you just start going, left is always this class and right is always that class, and you just intuitively start to understand it. Yeah, it's funny, like those little moments of like somewhat polarizing. I think when people look at a product and they'll be like, hey, like what if I want to put in an A5 notebook and it can't fit across this thing? Like that's great. the space on the inside. Like this is
Yeah,
your pocket dump. This is like the things that you need to quickly grab and drop off without much thought. Like it's a different thing we're trying to do, but I don't think I think it's hard to convey that until you like, move into a bag.
100%. You were talking zippers, and you know me, like we're gonna have to talk zippers a little
The
bit.
buttery the buttery zip.
The Pilgrim
Yeah.
shea butter
Yes.
zips. It's funny because like way before the channel, I just had like an obsession with zippers, not just with bags, but with jackets. And yeah, I can't tell you like how many times like I've been at a store like trying on a jacket and like just like zipping in. I'm like,
Zip, zip,
oof, I
zip.
don't, yeah, just like I don't know if it's gonna do it for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we talked about this when we met, but I think, you know, I would say one of the things that comes up a lot, and this is not across all of your bags, and that is the beauty of your collection, that you really have something for everyone. But some of your like coolest collections, like the Transit Work Pack, as well as like the Venture line, you guys are using PU coated zippers, and it's a pretty, in the bag community, there's a lot of polarizing thoughts on them. There's obviously a lot of functionality that goes with it, but would love to get your perspective on, the decision behind PU coated zippers for the brand.
Yeah, so I think there are comments about whether or not it's more water resistant, and the simple matter, the way we see it is most of the time, yes. Heavy downpours with a RCPU zip isn't going to totally protect you, and you see the challenge of a T zip or something that is fully waterproof, but we don't design bags for people who are going out in torrential downpours and having to work in those environments or having to protect their gear through those environments. Like what we want to do is just give like that little bit more insurance and that ability for you to be using it to know that you do have that enhanced protection for it. We've done quite a bit of like looking into internal storm flaps and different ways of protecting the zip after the water has actually reached into the bag, and then like how do you funnel it into a different area. Great for certain types of packing and certain types of activities, not so good for like above on the top zip for your laptop sleeve. Like
Sure.
we just want to be able to help water just like run away and not soak into the zips over those locations. The added factor of RCPU zip is that it gives a lot of structure to a bag. So on a Transit Work Pack, for instance, that outer panel zip, when we do it without using RCPU, and we have examples of it where it's uncoated, the zip doesn't actually like push itself out. So when you run the slider, you can have the zip as waved or as like, kind of like self-crushed, and you end up not actually being able to run the zip as fluidly over a curve because the zip doesn't have as much like stiffness and stability, integrity to actually like hold its own shape and to try and define the shape of the bag. So we use it not only as like that protective element, but actually as almost like a scaffolding, a little bit of a tent kind of like peg element or like beam that is like holding the bag out and actually supporting the structure that we've built for it. So it's not one thing that we're using it for. And I think that aesthetically, it does look a certain way and it does give a certain presence of power. It might be feeling a bit tech bro on certain bags, and that's fine. Like looking a bit tech bro can be the thing that people are chasing, and that there's a lot of comfort in projecting yourself as like technically capable that we want people to be able to enjoy. Other times it can be that the zip itself, like on a ready pack, is the structure that is holding that bag up and out and allowing the shape to perform in that way. And that is kind of like why we're continuing to kind of use them. As far as delamination over time, we try to not do any complex three-dimensional curves. So our zips will always be laying with enough room to allow the slider to pass over without hitting like friction spots. So think of the slider is like two flat bars with like a channel through the middle. And those two flat bars, you're asking to go over a curve. So as they go along, they're kind of like putting pressure on the interior and across the top as they curve around the zip. Um, and so that when you have like say like the zip curves back in, you'll have the top of the slider will actually be pushing on the actual coated side. Whereas if you're always curving out and around, the top face is actually not putting that same pressure onto the exterior coating. So, we select YKK, we then shape our zips to make it that we're not ever getting too complex curves where a zip starts to put undue pressure onto the coating itself. And then when we have bags that are going regularly underneath the plane, because of the huge temperature fluctuations, we'll only use RCPU zips where when it's on a very even external curve. So like a ready pack shape zip, if that was going under a plane regularly, we wouldn't use RCPU zip because of the complexity of flow that's going on there, and we don't want
Yeah.
those wild temperature fluctuations to actually cause any potential delamination issues. But if we do have something that's going under a plane, if it's a really straight travel of zip, we're okay with that because we know that the pressure on the zip that the slide is exerting is so much less.
Yeah, so next
So
time a keyboard warrior comes in just complaining about PU coded zippers, like that is a long-winded way of saying we have thought about every
yeah,
single possible. Yeah, like it's
yeah,
like
we've given it some thought. Yeah, I could keep
yeah.
going if you want, but I figured that's probably where we're at a good
Oh,
spot.
oh my gosh. No, but it's cool just like as a fanatic of zippers just understanding more of the science, and it also has answered my question because it's something that I've commented in a lot of my videos that, I think PU coated zippers have this reputation of being stickier than not, but the fact that so much of what they're doing is creating that support layer, that structure for the bag, that it actually ends up like making it a smoother zipping experience. Because out of like the 5 favorite zippers in the world that I have on backpacks, 4 of them are all PU coated zippers, and so that explains it, right? It's probably also like
Yeah.
helping
Well,
with the
have a look
structure.
at the complexity of the path those zips are taking, and I think you'll probably see that they've got a very even sweep, and that'll end up
Totally.
being like the thing that works. Because if you have a pocket that has a really tight corner with a PU zip, it's like it's so
Yes,
annoying.
it
It
truly
just
is.
yeah, it just winds you up.
It truly is. It's fine, like the Air City Pack Pro too. Not to talk shit, but it is like one of the most popular backpacks on the market. People won't shut up about it. Everyone's like, "Well, how does this bag compare to that one?" Right? But like that is like one thing that I get. People value different things, but getting into the main compartment of that backpack is, it's not horrible, but it's not enjoyable either.
Mm.
And yeah, it's, the trajectory of that zipper compared to like their City Pack 2 that has a much more simple zipper. It is an insanely smooth zipper as well.
Yeah.
I know do you have like a few more minutes or just like 2 other things I wanted to chat through? And if we're over time, I know
I've
you're
got I got time. Yeah, this is
cool.
good chat, so I think we just keep going.
Cool. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm on a bad seat. When I move around, it makes a noise that yeah. Anyway,
You are good. Stay comfortable. Okay, one thing that Bellroy people talk about, and I would love to get into it a little bit, is just stated volume. Like the Venture Ready sling is like listed as 2.5. I don't do like the bean test, or like, there's reviewers that do volume tests, but like chat me through the way you guys think about volume, or just like maybe where the like, is there a different system that you guys use? Like, why is there inconsistencies across every single brand and how they're reporting volume? I think people obviously want to have like more reliability as far as like, hey, this is a 24-liter backpack, I'm going to get 24 liters or whatever feels like 24 liters.
yeah. So we used to do this with the factory, and so the factory has a like there's a standard test. There's a certain size bowl that you use. Basically, you fill the bag to the maximum with the balls, and then you don't use any external open pockets. So this is like water bottle pockets. You don't use those, but any external pockets you also fill up as well.
Okay.
So when you fill the bag full, then you pour it into a container that basically has like a measuring. I've seen a few online where people are pouring it into like a jug that has been purchased for kitchen use.
Yep.
Pour it in, and then they look at it to the side, and they guesstimate. Like, this is not the best way of actually doing it. We have the factory has like a flat plate that's got a level on it that then you drop that plate down, and then it perfectly lines up so you can see the volume through a little indicator on the side, and it's a geometric, like it's a square, so we know exactly the volume that it is, as opposed to putting it into like a flared jug. Like, this is a very unspecific way of measuring volume. What we have noted is that the supplier was putting that bag so full of bowls because they assumed bigger number is better number. So absolutely crammed full of balls. So
Interesting.
it's like, if there's like a little space next to the zip, they're like grabbing one more and they're like pushing it, and then they're like forcing that thing closed. So we were getting reported volumes, and we're like, okay, great, that seems pretty good. All right, cool. We've got more volume than we were thinking through there, and um, this is kind of then let out that we had some volumes that ended up being higher than like the real measurement that you could do. It's not so much actually on the ready sling, which seems to be one that people are really picking on as having the volume discrepancy there. The biggest one that we've noted is the venture slings, that their volume that we had supplied to us versus when we remeasure it, there
Sorry,
is a discrepancy.
I was referring to the Venture Ready Sling, which is your two
Yeah.
and a half. But yes, and then like the rest of the Venture line. That's the one that I've noticed it as well.
Yeah. So Ready
Interesting.
Sling is actually quite accurate.
Okay.
It's like within 100 mils because we've
Okay.
rechecked. So it's like, it comes down to like, how are you measuring it? Then with the Venture Sling, so we've got the 6 liter, 9 liter, 10 liter. That's where we've got like more of an issue. And unfortunately, it's been something that was done many years ago. Like the Venture Sling came out in 2020, and we haven't found a logical way of actually renaming the bag's volume now that it's kind of like ended up being somewhat set, but it's
Yeah.
measuring about close to a liter under.
Okay.
And so we've ended up in this really awkward spot of like, how do we approach volume? And this has been a lesson for us of like, take it in house, make it that we're actually doing the measurements ourselves, and just be
Mhm.
really, really careful on not over capacity filling the bag, and the number, like the objectives that were done by the team before were like, bigger is better. So whereas now we're being much more like, okay, we fill the bag to a nice volume. We've got small external pockets. We're not really including those in the total volume in the way that they were full of bowls and jammed in before. We're taking a much more, in absence of a better term, a measured approach. And this is like something that has been like a bit of an internal working that we've been really trying to rectify and make sure that, like, products going forward are just much, much more accurate, not on the total volume, but more about the usable volume. And
Right.
so luggage has been another one where we've been looking at competitors in the way that the volume versus the capacity is measured as two things. So
Right.
some brands are putting the volume of the bag as in the total volume that the bag takes up, including the wheels and everything, thinking about when you put it
Uh,
into an overhead bin, how much volume does the bag take up, versus the capacity, which is like the interior volume. So we're making sure that we're actually specifying both of those in those scenarios to get a better outcome for customers knowing exactly what's the like usable volume versus what is the total capacity, like the total. Sorry, what is the usable capacity versus what is the total volume of the
sure.
product?
And I mean, it's not just you guys, right? Like, there's brands that overstate, others that are. when I say overstate, it's just the general consumer has like this idea, right? That it's like, hey, I'm going to trust this brand. This feels right. And then a lot of it is just echo chamber of what like people are saying, who's overstating and understating. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think just like holistically speaking, of course, uh, I envision a future where like every brand is on the same page and they're measuring the same exact way. And there's just like more reliability around just that, the usable, functional volume in
Yeah.
bags.
And we tend to have our laptop sleeves will compress, go flat against the back wall. So if you're not using it, it gets out of the way. We tend to have our pocketing does a similar thing. So when you fill the bag, it looks smaller than it does measure, and there's something interesting about that as well. That the techniques that we're using to actually make the pocketing like out of the way when you're not using it, meaning that the volume is measuring higher than like the addressable kind of space. Like once you put a laptop in there in the back, you've actually you've like ingressed inward. So then it feels like you've got less room inside the bag, even though it does measure that way. So there's a little bit of creativity to us finding the right way to establish what volume means for us and to be like, hey, this is like the usable capacity of the bag. And I think that's something that um, we're definitely working on for future product.
Amazing. To wrap up, really, the two last things I wanted to just ask you is just like one around like criticisms, right? Like, what are the things that maybe there's like one where every time you see someone, whether it's a specific product or essentially them just not agreeing with your design choice on something, which is the one that maybe like grinds your gears the most because it's kind of like they don't see the other side of that coin, like the balancing act that we've been talking about throughout the conversation.
Um, I think that expecting that all of our products are for you is kind of the thing. That we don't try and limit ourselves to who we think should be carrying our products. Like we're not thinking of an individual. Like we're not like there's one archetype Bellroy person and we do everything focused on them. Like internally, our voice is very spread across a whole breadth of people that we're like, hey, we've got this idea for how you should carry, whether that be cinch, whether that be laneway, whether that be venture, like whether that's light, like we can have a sling or small crossbody format in each of those camps. And they're very, very different expressions and they partner with different people's own needs and own requirements for carry. Some are more organized, some are less, some are shiny materials, some are really playful in the colors, some are like much more subdued. And it's like, I feel that we often get reviewed in a way that feels like everything that we're designing is for like the pack review community or
Yeah.
the reviewer audience. And it's like, it's really not that way. We're trying to look much, much broader and actually offer um, product for many of the people that we see in the world. Not everyone, but also not an individual. You know, I think that some brands have a really intense stated purpose and they can talk really loudly to this one group and just have that group just fully bought in because they're talking directly to them. You did mention Air before. I think that Air is fantastic at knowing who their customer is and really being able to talk directly, like on an individual feeling layer to that person. We do stuff that I think would frustrate reviewers. It would frustrate friends and passionate people of the brand because we're not talking to an individual. We're talking to a whole different like a group full of different types of people, but we're trying to have a conversation with all of them. So as you were saying about like where do you pigeonhole Bellroy, like we're very intentionally not trying to be pigeonholed because we think that the better ways to carry shouldn't be focused on a carryologist. It shouldn't be focused on people who feel that there's like a tactical element that they want to bring out into their lives. It should be things that have like, um, a bag that is unexpectedly well organized because the competition is just not prioritizing how do you actually use the bag. They're just making the shape look good. Whereas we
Yep.
can kind of come in and be like, we'll reference the shape, we'll make it our own way, but then we'll add that packing utility and those features in there that just mean you get a better carry experience. You don't know why you like this bag more than the other ones. You just do. And
Yeah.
so I think when like specifically for reviewers, when I'd see reviewers not necessarily understanding that this bag isn't for them, that is kind of one of the things that I find personally kind of like a little frustrating, because it's like
Yeah.
reviewing features and it's like, sorry mate, like we weren't thinking
Totally.
of you when we made this. We've got other people in our lives too. Sorry.
Totally.
Yeah.
No, and like, for me, like the channel is nitpacker. Like a theme in all my reviews is I talk about nitpicks, but in the end of the day, like, and I make it a point, right? Is that like all of my nitpicks, it's because of my preferences, and I always use it as a talking point to say why these features don't work out for me, but always looking at like the design intention. And while it might not benefit me, why it would be great for someone like X, Y, and Z. Where I think a lot of people just get, like we said, just like offended that they didn't get their, like whatever, side
Yeah.
access pocket, whatever it is. I have to ask though, because I think you mentioned you guys, it's not like you have something for everyone, but chances are, like, I feel like 85% of people will go on your website and at least one of the collections will speak strongly to them. And I love how there's like each collection is defined by like a specific set of materials that you guys are like developing in house to create that look, that feel, just really targeting that persona. Me personally, I am like, if you had to like put me in a bucket, I am a venture guy, like the beta nylon, the just the silhouettes, it just, I think it's like you mentioned, it's not designed to for you to like hike Everest with it, but it's more of like an aspirational adventure that's really like living, not that crazy of a life, especially now with kids. What if any collection would you say you identify most with?
Oh, interesting. I think that it depends what, like, I have the choice of all the bags, right? Like I can carry anything I want. Um, so it's like when I'm doing different functions, I lean toward different products. So say if I'm on a work trip, I used to be all one bag and I used to be all venture, whereas now I'm like, give me that roller, baby. Like that's it's
Oh
so
yeah.
chill. Put that
Yeah.
put that duffel on top and just like kind of cruise through the airport. And that is like a focus on the airport is the destination that I've got to navigate and
Sure.
reduce the friction for, but it's not the destination at the end, because I know once I'm at the end, I'm just like to meeting rooms, and that's kind of more the purpose there. If it's more active things, like then I end up typically going venture. Like if I know that I'm going to be walking around a lot, I'll normally be using venture, and that's like just a purely just it's like a pretty active fit. But at the moment now, I'm using a lot of classic for just like my like when I go up to the city office, it's like I want something that's just that loyal. Like I said, like the dog at the side, like I put it down, it just stands there and it's just waiting for me to
Yeah.
use it,
Yeah.
interact with it. And it's like that is typically what I'm using at the moment. Um, yeah, it's funny. Like it's really one of the other things that we do a lot is like we don't think of anyone is 100% of any of the different personas. So we have like this idea of outside, which are covered. We have casual, which is like the really approachable kind of like easy bag. So that's cinch family, laneway family, classic family, and shoot, I forgot. There's fourth one. Um, and they're really an easy kind of way of you showing up in the office, of you carrying, of you actually like just enjoying the product. There's the workday products, which is like Tokyo, a near transit that is like, hey, you bring yourself to the office. No one is all of one of these. Like we all have a mix of like workday, of outside, of casual, and different activities and different days will have us wanting to lean into one of those columns more. And so none of the products are actually designed really specifically just for one area. We want it to always be that it's like you can flex with Ready Pack and take it into the office. You can take your like your classic day pack. You can take that traveling. You know, we don't have things that are just feeling like they're totally siloed in one world and aren't actually able to kind of like help you move between those worlds and kind of like traverse your day-to-day life.
That's a great answer. And yeah, I mean, I was saying earlier, my favorite Bellroy bag is actually, even though I feel like I'm a venture guy, but it's the classic roll top. So yeah, so much of it is like what mood like are you in. Sometimes I'm feeling a little bit more technical, and there's days where I'm like, I don't want like, I just give me the simplest, like the most heritage thing possible. So
Mm-hmm.
um totally get it. To wrap up, the final question, not one that I enjoy asking, but at the same time I do, because I feel like being active on not just like through the YouTube channel and the comments, but on Reddit and other threads, Bellroy, I think to some extent, you guys are a larger brand, so just there's more people that have had experiences. But sadly, there is that connotation with Bellroy and customer service. You know, I'm sure there's people that have had bad experiences, but a lot where it's like people will be like, no, don't buy a Bellroy product, their customer service sucks. And then you go like you read between the lines, they've never bought anything, it's just an echo chamber that's been like persisting for a long time. So would love to just kind of get your perspective on like the root of it and just kind of like the brand's overall perspective on it.
Yeah, I think we didn't have great customer service for a while. Um, and this was in part that we had the wrong values actually being operated by the team. That at that point in time, I think that the thought was that protect the brand by denying people's complaints or not responding to their complaints in ways that really had much more of an understanding warmth to the person making the complaint. We didn't have great visibility. We actually discovered what people's experiences were through Reddit and through like people complaining about it. And it was really a difficult thing to realize that um, some of our representatives that we hadn't actually understood what our approach to customer service was. And it's really part of a growing pain. So think of like, you say that we're one of the bigger brands. It's like we are now. Like we have grown a lot from over the last, the 15 years from when it started as, a couple of wallets to what we are now. And during that transition, you're trying to find out how do you build more capacity and how do you add more ability to respond to this hugely increasing number of requests of people's time that start coming in. So that can be requests from, hey, how does the laptop fit in this? What size is it? To like, I got this bag and there's a fault. And so you've got like this huge increase in the volume of requests that are coming into the brand. And then so you have to add capacity in to be able to deal with it. Through that step, it was kind of like we lost communicating our values correctly to the team that was actually front facing. Um, it sucks. It happened, and then we've learnt about it and we've totally overhauled it. And this was years ago that it's been actually repaired, but the length of time for those individual like moments and it's shit. Like I'm not begrudging anyone who's had a crap experience with us. Like that's definitely not what we want, and it's also not something that we can undo. But the tail of it has been so long and persistent of like Bellroy's customer service is a difficult thing to deal with. doesn't actually reflect what the current state of play is, but it's something that just, as you're saying, it continues to echo long through there. Another long echo that we had was a challenge with the shoulder strap slippage through our hardware, and this was due to changing to a recycled filament, which was used on the webbing. So as we were pushing toward using recycled materials throughout, the webbing with recycled origin. So think about it like if you have virgin polymer, the polymer is totally controllable. So you can select a thickness that the filament becomes that then you weave together to make the webbing with. When you're using recycled, you have to change the thickness of that filament because you're uncertain of the purity of the origin source. So they do some adjustments to it. We moved to recycled and didn't realize that this step was actually making the output webbing slightly thinner and then also slightly slipperier. And it ended up being that we had this issue that the movement toward being recycled actually had a penalty on products that were being released and the hardware slipping. This was, again, another long tail because it happened as we were launching the venture, and there weren't really that many bags that it impacted, but the problem was that it tended to impact early adopters to the brand
Mm.
rather than later stage. So the people who got impacted tended to be those who were really invested and super interested in the brand. And that's like another one where that factor of growth and adding complexity to your supply chains and to your communication and increasing the volume of things that you have to consider ended up being something that we learned some painful kind of lessons through.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I appreciate the the transparency, and also I think for anyone out there that is depriving themselves of getting a hold of a Bellroy product because of that, yeah, maybe give them a second chance, because you guys are truly solving problems in such a unique way and just creating products that are sparking, at least for me, and I know for a lot of other people, a level of joy that you're not going to get in a more sterile, minimal, techie backpack. That it seems like that's the general direction the market is going, and it's just getting like oversaturated with bags like that. So keep doing what you guys are doing. We definitely appreciate it. JJ, this was great, man. I am committing to you right now that the transit carry on is my go-to suitcase. Absolutely love that thing, and being a dad and traveling more often than not with my kids, like that has become my go-to setup as well. But yeah, I definitely want to try this whole duffel roller situation. I'm intrigued.
Yeah. It's only a couple of months away. I think you'll see. Yeah, we've
Yeah,
got new venture product coming, which I'm
really.
really really excited for. So yeah, it'll be good to see how that comes into the world.
Oh my god, getting me very curious and very excited. Any closing remarks on your end?
No, just yeah, I think that as a brand and as we've grown, we've kind of come to a point now where um, we've realized that we have become somewhat larger. And with that larger size, we've actually got more of a responsibility, I think, to reach out and to communicate, the things that we are doing and the ways that we want to be able to influence and kind of like help the world of carry grow. And this isn't a selfish thing of like being like everyone should only buy Bellroy. It's more of a point that we actually want people to consider the products that they choose and the purchases that they make in a really like deeper kind of way and find things that um don't just tick like a series of boxes of objectives, but actually have this like emotional connection that there's something that having the right tool for the job does on a more fundamental or like personal level that we want to make sure that we can keep providing those tools so that people in the world can just have an easier time carrying and like kind of get the bit of the joy that we find from bags. And I know that it's like the audience that this is going to are very much down the rabbit hole of liking carry, but
Yeah.
it's like
Oh yeah.
I think that there's a real comfort in people talking very specifically about shoes they own or other gear that they have and etc. And I think that I really would just want to see bag discussion become actually more mainstream and for people to really feel comfortable to weigh up their choices and really be like, invested in the things that they're going to be putting on their back and putting over their shoulder and carrying their gear with.
Hell yeah. Well, I'm a in the larger scheme of things a microscopic channel, but just selfishly really enjoy having these kinds of conversations with really smart, insightful people like you. And yeah, hopefully people get a kick out of this. I definitely plan on continuing to do more of these, and it's an honor having you as the first guest of the nitpod. Hopefully, we get
Great.
some people watching, engaging, and actually getting some value out of it. But other than that, JJ, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it, and excited for what is to come as always with Bellroy.
Great. Thanks, Wolf.